Friday! Leave me alone. Gosh. Those normies, right? Okay, I think I'm fucking ready. Hi demons. Tonight, we're gonna talk about demonic perfumes, a subject tragically underexplored on my channel. I was in disbelief when somebody sent me a message about this very topic, and I realized I had no link to send in response. I have talked about certain scents and fragrances evoking these kind of occult, darker themes, but turns out I've never actually made a dedicated video about it, and so here it is. This is actually quite a rich subject, much more diverse than I initially thought. Like, I consider all my fragrances very wearable. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, see anything strange? I don't. Anyway, I think all of these are like super daytime wear, just like my makeup. But you tell me if you consider any of these out of ordinary. I'm gonna start with something that I find to be a very kind of business type of evil, you know, like a corporate monster type of fragrances. These I would heavily recommend you wear if you are attending a rather heavy-handed meeting, something about to go down, then without a properly strict, leathery, sharp shipper that has a little bit of a spiciness just to soften the blow before you ignite the flames. It's impossible. It's impossible to be an evoke rich in the business world if you don't own at least one shipper fragrance like that. And I'll give you two options, one a little bit more exclusive and high-end, and one that if you can chase it down or get it from my stash, fairly affordable. Alright, a premium option of that kind would be a dark, spicy, vicious shipper by Sisley, and actually you can take nearly any fragrance by them and you'll hit, you know, nail in the head. This one I consider to be spicier, darker, and at the same time a little bit more wearable, a little bit less screeching to a halt, a little bit of a piercing and screaming because of the spices that I added here. It's called Soir d'Orient. It's a beautiful bottle. It's very gift friendly. It's well packaged, it's well designed. And again, as I said, if you are interested in this type of allure, Sisley is your brand. Nearly everything they made, with exception of their tropical or cologne lines, is gonna be sharp, well crafted with very sharp edges and angles, but it's gonna be architecturally sharp. It's not gonna be accidental, it's not gonna be rough. It's very fine blends, it's just they are merciless. They're just merciless, those shippers, and this is my favorite out of all of them. Soir d'Orient by Sisley. An option that is way more affordable if you can find it is Cabochard Gres. I have it in eau de parfum. I cannot vouch for all of the options that are called Cabochard. There are like different years. There were different eau de toilettes, differently packaged Parfums and eau de parfums. This is like, I have the newest one. It's actually beautifully packaged, so also gift friendly and much more economical if you're looking for a slightly powdery, slightly spicy green leathery shipper. And for those of you who are not super familiar with what shipper represents, it's kind of these sour, sweet, sour, bitter, herbaceous type of scent. It's one of the oldest types of scents ever available to us to use, besides just mixture of essential oils. Patchouli is a common ingredient. It always gives you a little bit of this poisonous, zesty kind of feel. Most of the shippers, though modern ones, contemporary ones, can be overdosed with gourmand and kind of sugary components. but the classical shipper, that's actually a piece of history right there in the bottle. If you want to know what shippers are all about, this is a fine specimen to familiarize yourself with, so you understand what the perfume history has to tell us about leathery shippers. Cabochard Gres EDP, excellent candidate if you cannot shell all your coins on Soir de Orient. I love them dearly both. They are very much a boss kind of fragrance. Something even drier and more calculated, nevertheless just as grabby as all of Amouages are. And I'll give you also two options, both not super cheap, but this is particularly expensive. Amouage Honor, and this is their square bottle. To me, this is a very interesting concoction in a way that it has this dry black pepper. It's pretty much all that I feel the first probably 15 minutes when I smell it. But it also has this very recognizable old school, old Amouage, Christopher Chong's Amouage type of heart and the base that just grabs the skin. Most what Amouage is super famous for is these both complexity of the smell and the beast mode kind of longevity. I mean, there's no secret that this is supported by aristocratic circles and has a lot of influence from the royalty of Amans and the best that Middle East culture has to offer. So this is kind of like a devil playing chess in my mind. I find that most Amouages, at least their older generation, share these kind of slightly animalic, spicy, in very zesty, grabbing base that just sticks to your skin for the longest time ever, and this is no exception, which makes it a rather interesting contrast between such a architectural, dry black pepper structure at the beginning and these almost animalic, Amouage-esque base. Something a little bit more budget-friendly, but I would call it also as like kind of calculating cerebral type of evil. This is Vetiver Insolent by Miller Harris. I used up 8 ml of the decant and begged a friend of mine to exchange his bottle, like give me whatever she has left, because this is the smoky vetiver that does not have that type of smoke that makes me think of salami. It's like, if you know what I mean, please leave a comment below. I find that a lot of smoky scents, they're usually like three general types. They're tobacco with smokiness. There's salami smoke, where I can't stop thinking about like a deli. And they are the gourmand smokes, which always to me smell of prunes. So this is rather different. This is a smoky vetiver, and this is exactly what it is. I don't have to elaborate into 50 different components. It's just very cleanly, beautifully done, dry, smoky vetiver. And for that, I love it for office. I love it for any kind of, when you're scheming, when you're coming up with a new business scheme that will take over the world. That's the kind of scent I would wear. If we're thinking of demons as witches, women who are creating all these poisonous liquids, I have two to offer you that are neither shipper, no fougere, no, I don't know what they are, but they are very herbaceous, bitter, and yet magnetic. They're kind of hypnotic almost, both of them. And the first one, it's nearly addictive, and surprisingly so, because this is bitter herbs with powder. And this is Histoires de Parfums 1876, devoted to a famous spy and courtisan Mata Hari. It's unbelievable how the sweetness comes at the end of bitterness of herbs here. It's so bitter and dry almost unbearably so, and yet it gets more and more powdery the longer you wear it, and then at the very tail of it, it starts becoming sweet powder, and that's where it's just very narcotic. At first you smell is like, oh my god, that's damn bitter. That's definitely a poison. It's very witchy in the most beautiful sense. It's like that kind of liquid just that glows green, and yet the sweetness of that powder at the very, very tail of it, it's just so bewitching. It's amazing. Love it. And something that is a little less narcotic but nevertheless more alluring because it adds a little bit of a charm. It's like a smiling witch. Adds a charm of a yellow florals is Molinard de Molinard. I was about to say it's a more economical and budget option. However, it's been discontinued. You can still get a decant from me, from my bottle, but otherwise I'm not quite sure where you could find it. A very famous fragrance by them. I mean, it's not a coincidence that they called it a namesake perfume. Is Molinard de Molinard by Molinard. Here it's again dry herbs, somewhat of this kind of bitter dry powderiness, but less so, in more of a sweetness of yellow florals. It's more harvest-like, but still very, very witchy. Love it. And again, you start thinking about something dark, shadowy, demonic, and we cannot possibly forget the evil mermaids, which in regional myths were rather vicious and very scary creatures. They would only appear beautiful and seduce with their singing at the beginning, but when they dragged the sailors down to the bottom of the sea, they had sharp teeth and they were rather like skeleton, like and scary looking creatures. So the two fragrances, one very expensive, one more affordable, that I would recommend for evil mermaid. I find that watery florals that have a sharp, either metallic or bitter edge to them is the perfect concoction for an evil mermaid. And a more expensive, luxurious option I can offer is Amouage Ciel. I got a 50 ml, almost regret not buying a bigger one, but it's fine. I have a big enough collection. This is exactly what it is. These are romantic, somewhat oceanic, kind of watery flowers. Nothing obvious. There's no obvious jasmine, gardenia, or tuberose in here. It just seems like it's watery florals, and everything would be just so if there wasn't this piercing, almost metallic note that kind of hides behind the florals. That's just like, it's like piranha teeth getting to your skin, and the more you wear it, the more you get these kind of swirls and whiffs of these like teeth just biting you out of nowhere. Absolutely poetically vicious, evil in the most siren type of way. Love Amouage Ciel. Consider buying it if you love florals and you're looking for something with an edge. A more affordable version of that theme would be Cheap and Chic by Moschino. I know that Moschino kind of is known as a budget-friendly teen type of brand. They rarely ever advertise anything for people older than 19, and yet it's not as cliche and primitive as most brands. I don't know actually why marketing agents think that anything that you market toward teens has to be so blasé and so teethless. Moschino is actually the exception. A lot of their fragrances are unapologetically synthetic. You can love it, you can hate it, but they don't exactly go for any kind of believable natural scent. Not their thing. But in the very plasticky, gamer world type of way. This is the same concept as Amouage Ciel. These are evil florals. Just imagine something so soft and flirty and naive, like a bouquet of daisies nearly, and then you just want to grab that bouquet. It's like, oh, you're so cute, and bam, it's nested with needles. You immediately start bleeding out of your hands, not understanding what's going on. That's it. Cheap and Chic by Moschino is this synthetic, charming, bubbly floral that has these unbelievably mean, this is mean girls in a bottle, just mean edge to it. I love it. It's such a cool contrast. Where are we? Ooh, vampires. Quite a different breed of evil and demonic, right? I have 2 scents for you. Both of them are fairly expensive, but one is very prohibitively so. Another one you probably can find if you really look for it. Otherwise, just get a decant. Pretty much all of these that I'm talking about today are very rich, deep, sophisticated. Therefore, usually a decant, like a 5 ml, will last you a month at least. This is not something I would recommend bathing in. They are quite economical in their use just because they're so niche, so powerful, so unusual. It's not something that you spray when you don't know what to wear, and yet when you are in the mood, they just feed the inner dragon. So let's go to the vampire world. Oil Fiction by Juliette Has a Gun. It's their luxury boutique collection, which I think runs between $200 and $300. Don't get me started on prices. And I think by now it is discontinued, the whole line. Not quite sure, but that's what I think the last time I looked at online, I couldn't find it anywhere. But don't sweat it. I have it for you. If you want 5 ml, it will be plenty for you to be a vampire for a month. So Oil Fiction is kind of deceptive. For the first month, I had 2 decants of it before I bought the full-size bottle, and that's my general policy. Highly recommend starting with decants with everything. These days, I tried my best not to buy anything that costs above $40 or $50 without finishing at least 5 ml first. So I had 2 decants, and at first, I couldn't smell anything. It was like oily vanilla. It's almost, like the sebum that sometimes you can gather around your nose or around your neck. It's just like me with vanilla. It's just slightly oily, slightly sebumy, very demure scent. And that's how it was until I finished those 2 decants, got myself a full-size bottle, and realized this is a freaking vampire of a scent. I mean, look, it's dark red liquid too. Isn't that cool? Anyway, and later, as I was reading about this line, just trying to understand why all of I think I had 5 scents from this line, and all of them had these piercing quality. It's this signature Juliette Has a Gun musk, similar to how Tiziano Terenzi does it, with tuberose. And I usually have the most horrible headaches caused by tuberose. I was just hypersensitive to accords of chemical components that we call tuberose. I don't know what that was, but after having COVID, now I can wear tuberose. Not every tuberose, but I can get through it every once in a while. So I think this is musky tuberose with this oily demure vanilla on top of it, and that's what makes this. It's like the sweetest, the most sensual kiss that turns into a bloodbath. Super vampire scent. If you feel that inside of you, I do nearly every Friday. I'm ready to get rid of the bad blood around me. Oil Fiction is such a shapeshifter. Oh my god, it deceived me 3 times, but now I know it's vampire nature. I'm not going to be fooled the 4th time around. And something that I would say a little sweeter, a little bit more wearable. And again, I mentioned the smoke a lot, And smoke definitely something that I personally associate with something demonic and evil, but not necessarily. But as I mentioned before, smoky scents often have these kind of sweet prunes, dried fruits nature to them. And the perfect example of that would be La Couche de Diable and by Serge Lutens. I can't believe that there was a period in my life that I sold nearly all of my Serge Lutens fragrances only to rebuy them several times over the last 3 years. And now nearly every video I have, I always think of at least one scent by this brand that will fit the theme just so. They're just very imaginative scents and I adore their packaging. Anyway, La Couche de Diable is this sour sweet, think like dried prunes with somewhat of a smoky, incensey background. It's kind of even hard to tell what comes first, smoky incense or the sweet prunes. They're kind of like 50-50. They're very balanced in here. I think that might be a little less piercing than Oil Fiction, but both are very vampire-y. It just has this juicy kind of Barocco, dark vampire burlesque quality to them. La Couche de Diable, Oil Fiction, for my beloved vampires out there. Now for the heavy hitters. These are not for everyone. Just like I'm realizing my casual Friday might be a bit extreme for certain office environments. Nevertheless, this is the video. You did sign up for it, so I'm gonna show you the real goods, the things that stink, the stink heaven down to hell. Marquis de Sade, the name says it all. 1740 by Histoires de Parfums. This is just an orgy. It's so sweet, and at the same time it has this kind of whack in your face kind of, it just beats you to submission and then pours the kind of the dessert wine down your throat. It's like this sweet gourmand leather, and at the same time it's kind of drunk at the same time. I don't know what really gets this. It has patchouli, coriander, cardamom. It's very soft, gourmandy and spicy in this way. Vanille, leather, labdanum, it's all the usual suspects. I can't really describe it in any better terms than I have. You just gotta try it. Get yourself decant, wear it again. These stuff is gonna last you a while. You're gonna be well served with 5 ml. I wouldn't even say more than that. Yeah, 5 ml is more than enough, I think. Love it, love it, love it. I tend to overspray it a bit. I don't know why. It doesn't need that. It doesn't ask for it, but it has this kind of soaking quality to it that once I apply it, then every 2-3 hours, I feel like I need a new dose of Marquis de Sade. 1740 by Histoires de Parfums. Mwah! Compliments to the chef. This is just disgustingly delicious. Rouge Bunny Rouge, discontinued, absolutely epic and hard to find black line. They are dark tales. The black line by Rouge Bunny Rouge to me is like Brothers Grimm type of fairy tales. It's where everybody dies, including main characters. Nobody's left alive at the end of it. Incognito. That was my first love from this line, and to this day, similarly actually to Oil Fiction by Juliette Has a Gun, Incognita is a shapeshifter. Initially, I thought it was purely semi-sweet black pepper perfume. I was kind of like putting it on the same shelf as Amouage Honor. Yet, the longer I wear it, the more I feel this as a sweet, boiled, kind of super sweet, sensuous, animalic musk. Think Masque Ravageur, Narciso Rodriguez, certain sweet musks by Tom Ford or Kilian, that kind of musks, not like sour, like Kirke by Titian Trenzi, not those, like sweet, animalic, sensual, heavy musks. This is it. Plus the kind of sprinkled black pepper and dark spices on top. This is just kind of, if this is right in the middle of the orgy, this is post orgy, just like calm down. It's just everything is covered in what is left after the debauchery, and the demon is just laying low, sleeping after a good meal. This is the stuff. If you can find it, get one. And surely I saved best for last. All of these are true and trusted and tried demonic perfumes that I would wear for many occasions. And yet, if we're talking about the most worn, like my go-to, like just like close my eyes, what I'm gonna grab for if I feel in this dark, as a dark deity, like when I, about to lay my gifts to Hecate, I go for these two. It is Irreverent by Histoires de Parfums, and I'm nearly done with the travel. I love, let me wipe it off from my little grabby fingers. I love the packaging of their travels. This is like one of the most authentic and cool packaging for travel perfumes. Absolutely love them. And I have a backup of this travel, and that's about it. I gotta find Irreverent. I gotta find a full-size bottle. I'm not happy with just 15 ml because I'm nearly at the end of this one. It's sweet prunes, smoky, spicy, dry, almost like suede type of dry. And yet it's not these obvious dry fruits like the Couche du Diable. Is not, the sweetness here is not as typical vanilla demure as in Loyal Fiction. It's just perfection. The way that all of these sweet, smoky notes are combined is pure perfection. The notes suggest that we're dealing with animalic nature of oud elemi, and yet it has coffee, lavender, bergamot, stearix type of mixture. So it's kind of this like burnt lavender coffee. It's just try if you can. I'm not obviously listing the leftover what I have in my bottle. Honestly, I have no idea where you can find it, because if I knew, I would be buying what's left of it on the market. But it's just like tried and true. Like every time when I know it's gonna be a rock concert or something rather like sinister and darker nature kind of event, this is what I grab for. And since I'm nearly out of it, the new kid in town, and you probably, if you watched any of my videos, you probably can guess, is Beurre de Vent. It's by Imaginary Liquids, and in French, Liquide d'Imaginaire. Beurre de Vent is smoky, cardamomy, spicy leather scent. It's not this rough leather that, Italian leather by Memo and like Russian leather by Memo or their Moroccan leather by Memo. Not those rough, kind of unforgiving, marching type of leathers. This is more sophisticated, but it's truly like a French kissing a demon. The leather here is so smoky but not gourmand. This is, the Irreverent is way more gourmand. This is gourmand Oil Fiction. And again, I would never suggest any gourmand here that is just smothering and syrupy. That's not my style. This is a gourmand like La Couche du Diable. This is fairly a gourmand, Marquis de Sade, 1876. Everything else has only a subtle touch of sweetness, and so does this. It's not a gourmand, but somehow creates this sweet aftertaste. It's so forbidding because of the smoky leather, and yet underneath it is this warm, melting embrace. Buveur de Vent is the Satan of them all. Out of all of these scents, I would call that Veilsable type of fragrance. This is the paragon of demonic allure. And I dare say very few people can pull it off. I can. Maybe you can too. Try it. And there you have it, my fellow scent enthusiasts and connoisseurs of dark arts. We've journeyed through the enigmatic world of demonic fragrances, and each scent represents at least one mythical creature arriving from the shadows, tales old as time, and all of them just a little wicked. Remember, the right fragrance does not only turn the heads, but sometimes even summons something otherworldly. And as we conclude this hooky debauchery, I leave you with the lingering question: what scent do you use when you want to evoke an ancient mystical creature? What scent do you choose when you want to feed an emo dragon? Share your most bewitching fragrance stories in the comments below, and till next time, keep smelling devilishly delightful.